Begin Self-Publishing episode number 88. Get into number 1 in Amazon with Adam Croft.
Interested in self-publishing but don't know where to start? Want to get your book onto Amazon? Want to hold your paperback book in your hands? Learn how on the Begin Self-Publishing podcast with your host, Tim Lewis.
This week's show is a little bit opportunistic. This wasn't a tremendously pre-planned episode. I happen to have Adam Croft as a Facebook friend. I've got quite a lot of Facebook friends of people who I've really just had dealings with online. If I like somebody and get on all right with them in a Facebook group, either Ally or one of the other Facebook groups I'm a member of, I often send Facebook requests to people. And Adam is one of those people. Now, I noticed on his Facebook page that he posted a picture of being number 1 in the US Amazon store, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I thought, well, I'll approach him for an interview. Now, given that his wife at the time of recording was about to have a baby, it had to be quite a quick interview, and I didn't have a normal time to prepare. So it's very much an ad hoc interview. It's different from my normal pre-planned questions that I send the guest. I just said, do you want to do an interview about this? And he was like, yes. And he said, can you do it tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's an interview where I made the questions up. I think it's actually one that came off quite well. Now over to the interview. Hi, Adam. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim.
So you have got to number 1 in the whole of the Amazon US store. I suppose that the obvious question is, what do you think got you to number 1 in the Amazon store in the US?
This time round, 2 words: Kindle First. I was one of the picks for February's Kindle First offer, which is brilliant. That's, I mean, each month at the beginning of the month, the books that are included in that tend to kind of dominate the top 10. So I had a good idea a fair few months back that I probably would be there or thereabouts at the beginning of February. But yeah, just to kind of see it there is fantastic, really.
I know. Well, I saw on your Facebook account, it was like big cut and paste of the number 1 in the whole Amazon US store.
Yeah, and UK as well by the end of yesterday, and I think it's still there in the UK today as well. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
So you might have, well, I suppose they don't probably never release global figures, but you might be number 1 selling in the whole world at one point.
I think so, yeah. And I think I'm right in saying that Amazon US is bigger than Amazon's other territories put together, I think. I know the UK is second, and as I said, I was number 1 on America and UK as well. So, I mean, even though they never really put out those figures, it's, yeah, kind of taken as given that it probably was top in the world, yeah.
So I suppose the next question a lot of people will say, well, so what is Kindle First, and how can people get into it? I suppose is the next question.
Well, in Kindle First, I mean, I've been a member of as a reader for quite a while because I'm an Amazon Prime member. And all Amazon Prime members have access to it. Essentially, there are somewhere between, I think, 6 and 8 curated titles each month that on the first of each month are offered a month early, if you like, to Amazon Prime readers. They can get them for free, get 1 book each month for free. So Only the Truth, my book, which is included this month, is actually released on March the 1st. But it was the February 1st, Kindle First offer, if that makes any sense. So you get it a month early, you get it for free if you're a Prime member. If you're not, you can sign up to Kindle First for free, and they give it to you. I think it's 99p or $1.99 in the States. So yeah, I've been on the other side as a reader for a couple of years now, I think, since it started. And I think I'm right in saying as well that all of the titles that are included are Amazon publishing titles. So my psychological thrillers are with Thomas and Mercer, aside from my self-published titles in my other 2 series. And yeah, there's normally 1 from each genre each month. So mine was the suspense title this month. And yeah, it just gives it a hell of a lot of attention. It's Amazon's biggest marketing tool. You know, pretty much every book they put into that, especially in the mainstream genres, tends to hit number 1 or thereabouts for most of the month that it's out.
Well, I suppose were you up against any romance books? Because they always tend to do well.
I don't think so. There was a very good sci-fi one that I found as well. I'm not into sci-fi at all, but I saw the blurb of that and I thought, you know what, that's going to have to be my Kindle First pick this month. Even though my own book's in there, I'm going to have to get that one because it sounds really good. And there's a couple of literary fiction ones as well that are floating around in there, and sort of up around the top of the charts as well as a result. So yeah, they normally pick them quite a few months in advance. So I've known that it would be in the February Kindle First offers for about 6 months, and I think it was first mentioned to me they were putting me forward for about 9 months ago. I was under contract on pain of death not to tell anybody at all. So it's until Amazon released it themselves. So yeah, it's been difficult keeping it quiet, especially when you're pretty much going to be worldwide number one on a certain day 6 months later, and you're not allowed to tell anyone.
Well, that must be a great thing to have to put up with, though. As putting up with things go, that's probably quite easy to put up with.
Yeah, when you're sort of involved with some publishers and things, there's always things that you can't necessarily talk about. I mean, I've got stuff going on the film and TV front at the moment, and I've got to be very careful what I say on those as well. Whereas, what I want to do is be going, Facebook, Twitter, shout from the rooftops, tell everybody what's going on, but you've got to kind of.
You've got to be patient, haven't you?
Yeah, got to respect the sort of contractual things, unfortunately.
Okay, well, if we wind back then. So you're at number one because you've written a good book, primarily. It's got a good blurb, and it's also in Kindle First. Now, as you say, Kindle First is primarily to people who are in one of Amazon's imprints. So this is, in effect, Amazon's publishing arm. I believe it's like Thomas & Mercer, one of the Amazon publishing imprint companies.
Yes.
How would somebody go about becoming an author in one of those Amazon imprints? How do they select who they offer Amazon offers to?
I think a lot of them are selected from people who are already doing well at self-publishing. I mean, that's certainly how I was selected. I got an email from an editor at Amazon Publishing just over a year ago now, saying she'd noticed how well a previous book of mine was doing, and the fact that Amazon customers seemed to love it, and could she give me a call to discuss a few things. So we went from there and we got chatting, and they mentioned Amazon Publishing and Thomas & Mercer, and we went from there really, and the contracts were signed a month or two later. But I think you can get there through agents. I'm not entirely sure. As I say, I tend not to, on the literary side of things, I don't tend to deal with agents and publishers in general anyway. I tend to go my own way, and I only really use agents for sort of foreign rights and film and TV and things. A surefire way is to get noticed, really, as with anything in this industry, to just kind of build upon the success you've had and to use that as a platform to get to the next stage.
Okay, so if you've still got your self-published books alongside these Amazon imprints, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you found that your sales of your self-published books have gone up since you've been with one of the Amazon imprints?
Yes and no, yeah. I mean, generally, yes, especially on the Amazon side of things. I mean, for me, Amazon sales aren't as dominant as they were anyway. I do very well on some of the smaller retailers, Kobo and Apple. A lot of the days I sell more books on those than I do on Kindle anyway. On the self-publishing front, of course, that's not including the Amazon publishing titles, which are exclusive to them. And yeah, it does. I mean, yesterday, of course, the amount of attention that got me on the 1st of February, yeah, my Kindle sales grew by about sort of 10, 15 times what they normally are, because I suppose other people had seen my name there, not heard of it, they'd Googled me, maybe seen that I've got other books out and bought those as well. So yeah, anytime Amazon do any kind of marketing drive, sales do increase. And that for me is one of my reasons for doing it, because Amazon's marketing that they can do and the marketing potential they have is enormous, and that can draw a lot of attention to me and a lot of attention to my other books. And they were very open about that as well when we started discussions, and I mentioned they've got this kind of holistic approach towards marketing the author and not just individual books.
It sounds like you've got the Amazon imprint gig because you were successful at self-publishing. So
yeah,
I suppose if we wind back then and say, What was the point where you feel that you went from being maybe just sort of trying self-publishing to actually being successful at self-publishing? What was the thing? What was that, or was it just a gradual process, or was there one particular moment where you thought, well, I'll try this, and then sort of success in self-publishing became easier?
I mean, it was gradual up until about the end of 2015. I mean, Her Last Tomorrow, which was the book that really sort of kick-started things. That was my 9th book. And I'd been writing full-time before then and doing other bits and bobs in between. But that was the one that really kind of went stratospheric. And I'd had the idea for a long time. I'd actually written most of the book and just had it sat in the drawer because it wasn't connected with my main 2 series. So I thought, well, everyone says write in the series, everyone says don't keep chopping and changing, so I just left it there. And I didn't even realise, to be honest, that psychological thrillers were even a thing. It just so happened that this book was one. And yeah, I got it finished and I put it out there. And it was about that time that I started discovering Facebook advertising. And I'd been advertising some of my back catalogue with, some success. I could see the potential that was there. And I started to kind of drill down into what worked and what hooked people into engaging with an advert and buying the book. And that's when I then got thinking again about this book, Her Last Tomorrow, that was mostly finished. And that had a really engaging hook, a really marketable elevator pitch, if you like. I got that finished. Didn't really expect much to happen, but I was using that as an experiment for seeing what I could do with Facebook advertising. And it took off from there, really. It immediately started doubling its money each day. So, of course, I started increasing what I was throwing at it, because if it's doubling its money, I want to spend as much as I possibly can, obviously, to double that. So I kept increasing the budget. It started climbing up the charts. There was, of course, word of mouth starts coming into play as well. More and more people reading it. Book groups start getting involved. And, the halo effects, kicked in big time, really. And that's when things really changed. I mean, February last year, the book made, this time last year, it was sort of grossing, verging on 6 figures a month. It was ridiculous. That's when Amazon started
knocking on your door,
saying we might have something else we can do here. So yes, it's all kind of gone from there, really. I think that's when things really tipped over, I suppose.
Okay, so how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much were you spending on Facebook advertising at your peak then with that book?
Well, at the peak, I was maxing out credit cards and going to family and friends and dragging them around and saying, look at these spreadsheets, look at the data, all the money I'm spending, I'm doubling each day. Trying to get money from wherever I could, and at the maximum, I think somewhere between £1,000 and £1,500 a day at the maximum. But it was doubling its money and more at that point. And it wasn't a case of just throwing that money at it straight away. I was increasing bit by bit. And of course, the business mind in me said, well, I'm happy to double £10 a day or double £50 a day, but I'd rather double £1,000 a day. So I was just trying to spend as much as I could, really, and being able to see that it was coming back pretty much immediately. Of course, the issue is that Facebook takes your money the same day, whereas Amazon KDP, pays you back 2 months later. So I had that 2-month gap that I needed to fill. It was a case of trying to get my hands on as much money as I could during that 2-month gap and put it all into the adverts. And of course, it was pretty much foolproof, because if the ad stopped working, I would notice within a couple of hours. And the most that I would potentially lose, in inverted commas, would be a couple of £100, because I could see that the ads had stopped working, see that the sales had stopped coming in, and hit the pause button on them all. So it was just common sense to just throw as much money at it as I could.
So what sort of targeting were you using for those Facebook advertising? Did you have another set of authors that you were targeting their followers, or were you doing more sort of email list targeting or something along those lines?
I did all sorts, to be honest with you, and by February time, I had to really, really widen it out, because I was just completely destroying all audiences because I was throwing so much money at it. I was eating through audiences in a couple of days. Yeah, looking at other authors, sort of genre targeting as well. I ended up widening it out quite a lot. At one point, I was actually just doing it literally a UK-wide audience at one point, and getting some, surprisingly half-decent results. And I think that's because it was kind of at the peak of its popularity, and people were talking about it anyway. Even people who weren't necessarily that interested in books or in that genre of books. So it really opened out at that point. And I think, the call from Thomas and Mercer came at the right time, because I'm not quite sure where I could have gone from there in terms of marketing it myself. I think, the Facebook audience in general had been completely wiped out almost by me constantly advertising this book. So yeah, it needed to go to a new audience. It needed a new marketing avenue, and that's where they came in.
So did they take over that book, or did they just want your new books?
They did, yeah. They took Her Last Tomorrow and Only the Truth, which was the one that came out yesterday. Technically comes out on March the 1st. And yeah, they wanted that sort of worked on with editorial changes. It's actually almost twice the length now in terms of word count. There's new points of view in there and different bits and bobs they wanted changed, and it's got a new cover and everything. So it was relaunched again in October on Kindle and November in paperback. Just gone. So yeah, there's quite a lot of time spent last year effectively rewriting that, at the same time as finishing Only the Truth and getting a few self-published titles out as well.
I presume that the amount of royalties and things you get from the Amazon deal is worse than you would for the direct KDP package, but obviously you get editing and covers and stuff for free in that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get the 70% that you would get through self-publishing, but of course you do get a much wider audience, and the royalty rate is still better than the lower royalty rate on KDP. So if you're selling at 99 cents, you're only getting, 30%, I think, aren't you? I mean, the Amazon publishing royalty rates are still better than that, so it's a lot better than a traditional deal as well. You get, I know people on traditional deals who get 5% for a Kindle sale, or sort of 6 or 7% for a paperback maybe, and they're a lot better than that. that's for sure.
So that's I seem to be going in as a sort of a backward trend, but what got you started in self-publishing in the first place?
Well, I had an idea for a book that I started writing, I think in 2008. I think I started writing it. And, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just had this idea and I played around with it. I finally got it finished 2010, which seems like a ridiculously long time for writing a book, considering now I spend, maybe get a book out every 2 or 3 months at the most. And that one was only about 22,000 words as well, so it was a novella, really. But I didn't really know what I was doing with it. I finished it, wasn't quite sure where I was going, and I'd heard of self-publishing, I'd heard of KDP, and that was literally all I knew. I Googled it, I signed up, and I put the book out there, and all I really wanted was for somebody that I didn't know to read the book and let me know what they thought of it. And it kind of went a bit mad from there, really. I started looking into the marketing side of things. I found out about perma-free and building an audience and all of this, and went from there. And that was, I think, first couple of days of 2011 that one went live.
When was the sort of first time you started making, not necessarily, I mean, obviously not huge money, making later, but a reasonable amount of money from self-publishing?
Well, I mean, it's been growing since then, really. Of course, every time I put a book out, it grows because more people find that book and they go back and they read the back catalogue and all the rest of it. So, I mean, that's always the best thing you can do, is put more books out. I think, it's difficult to say, really, because it started kind of growing from the start. I mean, very, very small levels. But I mean, the first time I've been, I suppose, really kind of happy with what it was doing was when, about the time Her Last Tomorrow came out. I mean, just before that, the first couple of books before that had started doing quite well. So I was starting to kind of see that things were really starting to kick off, and in the next year or two, things would, start to grow to a level that I'd be quite happy with. But I just didn't expect the jump to the next level to be quite that drastic, really.
Yeah. Going from your sort of battered car to your Ferrari, isn't it?
I'm not a fan of Ferraris.
Oh, your Bentley then.
Oh, yes. Now you're talking.
Did you, just out of interest, did you get any kind of notification from Amazon that you were number one in the US store? Or was this just a case of you clicking refresh on the Amazon page of your book?
No, I did get an email. I think the first person I think Mark Dawson sent me a message. I think that was the first thing I heard. I was actually at a midwife appointment with my wife to our first baby anytime soon. So I was actually at a hospital appointment at the time, and came back, and phone was beeping while I was in the car, and I got back and saw the message. And even though I was kind of not expecting it, but hoping for it and thinking it might be a realistic possibility. But to have that confirmed was just fantastic. Okay,
so we've gone all the way back, and I'm not going to go back to your birth and childhood. So let's try going forward. What have you got planned in terms of your self-publishing side, in terms of books, and also in terms of what you're going to be doing with the Amazon imprints? What are your future plans beyond? Is it trying to get another number one, or have you got wider plans?
I mean, first of all, I'm going to have a baby, and then I'm going to have a couple of weeks and then see what happens there. But I've got 2 series that I self-published that I'm going to carry on with. They've got a wide audience of followers, and I'm determined, not to let that slide at all, because they're the people who have got me where I am in the first place. So I always try and get a couple of books out a year in those series. Got another couple of psychological thrillers that I'm working on at the moment. So we'll see where they're going to be placed in the next few weeks. Once sort of negotiations and different things are hammered out. Got another series I'm looking at developing as well. I've got, film and TV thing in production at the moment. So there's lots and lots of different things going on. It's quite good, I think, actually, that I'm going to have to take a couple of weeks away from it all in the next month or so, just to kind of get my head around things as well. I think that's going to help.
Yeah. So there is quite a lot of talk in self-publishing about this idea of writing to market. I mean, when you come up with a book idea, are you thinking, I should write a sort of or lesbian zombie sci-fi romance because that's hot right now? Or do you think just of an idea, or is it a mix of the two? How do you determine what your next book is going to be about?
To be honest, I don't really pay much attention to what's hot and what's not. I write what I want to write, and I write what I'm good at writing.
Yeah.
I think if you write to the market, I think you're always going to be on a bit of a losing track because, first of all, you've got to learn that genre and you've got to learn that style. So if it is lesbian vampires or whatever, it would take me probably 6 months to a year to read other books in that genre and work out what it's all about and devise plots and come up with the books. And by then, it's all moved on. And something else is the hot topic at the time. So I think you've just got to stick with what you do. I mean, otherwise you risk confusing your fan base as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue with writing to market, though. It's quite a popular idea at the moment, but I suppose if people like reading books very quickly, then it might work for them. But for some of us, it's probably not a great idea. Yeah,
I think you end up with a very small audience in lots of different genres. I don't think you ever get to kind of build a name anywhere. And, you know, I don't know. It's not necessarily a bad idea. It's just not for me, really.
Okay, so it's been great talking to you. How can people find out about Adam Croft and your #1 book and all your other self-published books?
Well, my website is adamcroft.net. I'm on Twitter at Adam Croft. My Facebook page is Adam Croft Books. And, yeah, Only Truth is now on Amazon, Kindle First, for Kindle First members and Amazon Prime members. I mean, even if you're not a member of Amazon Prime or Kindle First, you can sign up for Kindle First for free. And you get the book, I think, heavily discounted. I think it's $1.99 or 99 cents. They let you have one a month on that deal. And that's every month they send you those deals through. You can either claim them or not. It doesn't cost you a penny unless you want to get the discounted books.
Okay, well, it's great talking to you today, Adam.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please stop by iTunes and rate and leave a review. This helps make the show more visible. For free resources, show notes, and other helpful content, join the community at beginselfpublishing.com.